But I watch your eyes as she walks by. What a sight for soul eyes, brighter than a blue sky. She's got you mesmerized.
Hi, I'm Michaela Willis, and this is why I want to be a nurse. When I was 6 years old, I remember driving in the car with my mom, and I remember an ambulance driving by us, and I asked her, "Mom, is that an ambulance? Are they going to go help people?" She said, "Yes, they're going to go help people. That's their job." And I said, "Well, that's pretty cool." And I didn't really know what that meant. And she said, "You know, Michaela, someday maybe you should be a nurse." And I said, "Mom, what does a nurse do?" And she said, "A nurse helps people." I said, "Well, that sounds pretty cool. Well, what kind of nursing do they have? Do they have nurses for babies? I love babies." She said, "Yeah, you're really great with your baby sister. You know, you should be a labor and delivery nurse or a pediatric nurse. They have all kinds of nurses, and their job is to help people." And I said, "That sounds pretty cool. That sounds like a pretty good job." And ever since then, I've wanted to be a nurse. I know that sounds like a silly little story, and it sounds kind of funny that I've never changed my mind and I've never wavered on wanting to be a nurse. Well, when I was about 16 years old, I started to question, because I started high school and I was really starting to think about what I wanted to do for a career. And I was really questioning if I was meant to be a nurse or not. My life, I had known I wanted to be a nurse, but at this point, I was questioning whether or not that was what I was supposed to be doing. And then, on my 16th birthday, at my 16th birthday party, it was about a few days before my actual birthday, my best friend and I, and a few of our other friends, as well as my mom, went out to dinner, and we were planning on going bowling afterwards. Well, we never made it to the bowling alley. We sat down, we got drinks at this restaurant, and she collapsed. We didn't know why at the time. We didn't know what was going on. Our immediate thoughts were that she was playing and just kind of messing around, because that's her personality. She loves to kind of mess around and tease people, but that wasn't the case. After a couple seconds, and we realized she wasn't messing around, we looked over at her and realized that she was not okay and she was not breathing. My mom quickly lowered her to the floor and laid her flat on the floor. I quickly yelled for someone to call 911. I don't even remember doing this because it was just natural instinct. I don't even remember asking for someone to do that. I just remember feeling like I had to do something. I don't remember about every little detail that I did. At the time, I don't remember my reactions, and I really don't remember my friends' reactions. I remember my mom laying Nicole down on the floor, as calm as she could have been. And my mom is not a medical professional. She's not in the medical field, but her first instinct was just lay her down flat on the ground. My first instinct was to scream out for someone to call 911. And immediately after, I said someone needs to call her parents, because her parents weren't there. So I called her parents. I'm very close with her parents. I've grown up with her. She's like a sister to me. So I called her parents and I explained to her dad, "I don't know what's happening. She's not breathing. She's not moving." I thought at the time maybe she was having a seizure because her body was kind of seizing a little bit, but I didn't know, and we didn't know what was going on. Immediately after that, a woman in the room who was in the corner of the room, who was planning on going to a different restaurant that night, but her 3-year-old decided they should go to that restaurant, and they changed their plans. She was there. By a miracle, she was there. And she came running over, and she was a pediatric nurse. She was a pediatric nurse, and she was in the same room as this 16-year-old girl who had a cardiac arrest, and we didn't know it at the time. We didn't know anything at the time. We just knew that she collapsed and she was on the floor now. That's all we knew. This lady started performing CPR on her quickly after realizing she doesn't have a pulse. The fire department came not too long after. I don't know who called 911. Have no idea. But it wasn't too long before they came. It was maybe about 5 minutes at most. It felt like a long time though. I remember the fire department rushing in, and I remember them telling us we can go outside now, and my mom guiding us outside. Standing outside, panicked, full of tears and crying and consoling my friends because we didn't know what was going on. All of my friends' parents came to pick them up except for me and my friend Rachel. Rachel and my mom and I decided to go to the hospital right away. We didn't go home, we didn't do anything. Obviously, the rest of my plans that night didn't happen. We rushed to the hospital and we met Nicole's parents there. They were freaking out and they didn't know what was going on. We didn't know how to explain to them what was going on. They only had heard a little bit of information from the people in the ambulance, and they didn't really get very much information relayed to them. Nicole was being rushed back to take care of by a lot of doctors and a lot of people and nurses. We didn't know what was going on at the time, and we had no idea what was happening. We just sat in the waiting room for what felt like forever, and with no answers, eventually my mom said it's time to go home. Later on, we found out it was a cardiac arrest and her heart had completely stopped. We also found out about the nurse, the pediatric nurse that was at the restaurant with us, that she was planning on going to a different restaurant that night. We found that out that same night too. We also found out that cardiac arrests in someone this young of an age are not likely to be survived. Most people that are that young that have a cardiac arrest don't survive. And so it was a miracle that she did survive. And she was actually put into, right away when she got into the hospital after being on tons and tons of medications, she was put into a medicated coma to let her heart rest, to let her body rest. She was in that coma for about 3 days. And then they took her out of it. And then she was in the hospital for about 3 weeks after that. It felt like a really long time. I've grown up next to this person and she's my best friend. She's like a sister to me. So to not have her just down the street from me really was hard. She was all the way miles away across the city in a hospital, lying in a hospital bed by herself, and that was really sad. It's because of those nurses and those doctors that my best friend in the world is still here today. If she didn't have the excellent care that she has had, I wouldn't still have my best friend. I get to enjoy life with her. I get to spend time with her and enjoy moments with her. I don't get to see her as often as I used to because I live in a different state now. I'm going to see her next month. I get to enjoy these moments with her because nurses cared. Because she had an amazing care team to be there for her and with her. Because she had doctors and she especially had nurses that were there in the middle of the night to hold her hand when no one else was. It was the nurses that were there for her that got her through it, that got her walking again, and encouraged her when she felt like she was alone, when she felt like she couldn't do it. It was the nurses who were there for her. And that right there is why I want to be a nurse. Because it reminded me why I wanted to be a nurse in the first place. Because I love helping people and I want to help people and I want to see miracles like that. I want to see a 16-year-old girl who went from having a cardiac arrest laying flat on the floor to being a vet tech to being the beautiful woman that she is now. It's because of nurses and doctors that she is where she is now. And I'm so thankful for that. That is why I want to be a nurse. So yes, the little girl in me, she's always wanted to be a nurse because of that conversation that I had in the car with my mom when I was 6. But the real reason I want to be a nurse is because I want to see miracles happen. And I want to be a part of them. I want to help people in their worst moments and I want to help them. I want to be there for people in their worst, most vulnerable moments.